Welcome to the Girl Crush podcast with me, Donna Pesci. I created this podcast to encourage, inspire, and empower women to dream big and live with purpose, passion, and joy. I'm fortunate enough to have interesting, authentic, and sometimes really funny conversations with amazing women who are just crushing it at life. You'll meet entrepreneurs, CEOs, healers, creators, artists, mystics, and moms. We'll talk about everything from the decisions that shape our lives to the moments that make us laugh out loud. We'll chat, we'll examine, we'll even gossip a little. I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to hear what you think. Today we are talking to Jenny Patinkin, the founder of her namesake and award-winning line of Eco Luxe beauty tools. She's a highly sought-after beauty expert, entrepreneur, makeup artist, and best-selling author known for her simple and age-aware approach to beauty. Jenny's line of beauty tools has been praised by celebrity makeup artists, beauty influencers, online and print beauty authorities such as Allure, Elle, InStyle, New Beauty, the New York Times, Pop Sugar, and Well and Good. Jenny regularly appears on network TV and prominent digital media channels, educating people about beauty and makeup. She's been featured on Good Morning America, The Today Show, The Rachel Ray Show, Extra TV, and H&N, and has contributed her expert tips to Goop, Glamour, Harper's Bazaar, Health, Marie Claire, People, Style Watch, Real Simple, Self, and many others. Jenny's a frequent public speaker and is the author of the best-selling book, Lazy Perfection, The Art of Looking Great Without Really Trying. Thank you so much for being here, Jenny. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. I have so many things that I want to talk to you about, but I always find it better to just kind of start at the beginning. And I would love to know how you got started in the beauty industry, if it's something that you always wanted to do or how you kind of fell into that.
It was an accident, to be honest. It's really my third career. I started out doing marketing and marketing services and event planning. And then I stayed home and I had babies. And during that time, I was doing a lot of volunteer work at my kids' schools. My husband and I were politically engaged, and I did a year-long volunteer position doing fundraising for pediatric medical research. And it was a really social position, and my picture was always being taken, and I had a million stewardship events and development events. And so at the end of that year, I wanted to start an agency sending out makeup artists to other people who were doing these sort of high profile fundraising or other community engaged positions. And I met a makeup artist while I was vetting this concept who said to me, no, actually, I think you get makeup. I think you understand color and texture in a artist type of way, and you should do some training. And so I did. I did a very intensive 5-week training course, and about 2 weeks later, I got signed by a big international agency.
Wow, that's pretty
And
incredible.
I jumped in and I started working. Yeah, it was crazy. And
so you had never thought about being in the beauty industry before that? It wasn't something that you considered?
It was not on my radar. It was not on my radar at all.
So how did that come about that you got signed by an agency?
The artist that I trained with had a relationship. It was Elite at the time. They're not called Elite anymore. Now they're Artists by Timothy Priano. And she gave them my name and they called me in for a test shoot. And it was a really kind of harrowing day. I did not like the photographer. He was rude and mean and kept insulting Michelle Obama's hair, which pissed me off.
Wow.
And while I was on this photo shoot, I'm calling my husband saying, I don't think I'm cut out for this because at 40 years old, I'm not willing to keep my mouth shut and tell this guy what an asshole he is.
Yeah.
But I got through the day and we got some gorgeous images, and then the agency signed me, predicated
Wow.
on those images.
That's amazing.
This
I think
is
it's
like,
it's a testament to kind of knowing your worth as you get older as well, to just be on, because we've all had that in any, I think, industry where we're kind of forced to work with somebody who is an asshole. And I think at a certain point you're not going to do it. You know, you're just going to find a way to get through it. But also not put up with it, you know.
well, and as women, we're taught to sort of swallow our anger and not show like the emotional side. It's unprofessional. But, talking shit about the first lady, also
Wow.
unprofessional.
Yeah, how do you get away with that? I
Yeah.
mean, that is crazy. Unbelievable. So
Yeah.
then from there, you just continued to work as a makeup artist for a while.
Did. I started to do, some commercial work and some editorial work, and then I started getting called in to do, celebrity work and some cover shoots, and, that's not as glamorous as it sounds because oftentimes you don't get paid as a young artist. When I say young, I mean new artist.
Mhm.
You're doing it just to build your book and your portfolio, so I did that for a few years, and, it was nice. I was getting contacted by HBO when they had somebody coming through Chicago, or Lionsgate production company, or Viacom, whoever it was. It was nice. It was gratifying. But what I really learned in those first couple of years is that my preference is to work with real people and not with celebrities. I was 41, 42, 43, maybe at this point. My skin was changing. It was a conversation with my friends. I'm using the same products. They don't look as good. I'm looking in the mirror and something looks different. And so I sort of honed my technique into something I call lazy perfection, which is really geared to taking the least amount of steps that you can to get the benefit that you're looking for, but it's all totally customized and personalized. The beauty industry at that time was like really cookie cutter. There was not Fenty Beauty or any of these other lines that had 35, 40 colors of
Mhm.
foundation. There was not a lot of representation or diversity. And so this methodology that I kind of honed in on was really all about customizable beauty in a very simple way. And so I started teaching. I started giving lessons to people on how to achieve this lazy perfection look. And it kind of took on a life of its own. It got a lot of press, and I started to build a big client base. And then I developed my first line of makeup brushes that, I was doing trunk shows at Barney's, and I was pitching to some other big national retail chains, not like Sephora big, but like there's a chain called Cosbar. They've got 20 something stores. And I pitched to a then website called joyous.com, Joyus. They don't exist in the same format anymore, but basically they were QVC, um,
Okay.
but only for the digital age. It was not on TV. It was all, on a computer screen. And to make a long story short, they hired me to be one of their on air beauty experts.
Wow.
And so I spent the next 4 years flying back and forth to California, shooting content for them, working with a lot of other brands, really digging deep into the industry, meeting people, learning so much. And then I went back and really kind of relaunched my line. I got a book deal. And then after doing all the promotion for the book, my line kind of evolved again closer to what it is now.
Amazing. And let's talk about that, writing a book, because that is no easy feat. I feel like there's a lot of people that may think, myself included, that they have an idea, for a book, but to actually sit down and write it, especially being a mother and running a business and being, a busy and sought after makeup artist, how did you find the motivation or the strength to or the time really to kind of sit down and get that done?
I only had 4 months to write my book.
Wow.
So, but
Wow.
I will tell you that you can self-publish a book, obviously. Anybody can self-publish a book, and that's a great way to go. But if you are looking for, a one of the big publishers, um, and some money out of it, it is incredibly difficult to get a book deal, and I was very naive about the whole process. The publishing industry is a whole different animal. You have to have an audience already before
Hmm.
you will get a book deal. And so for me, because I was on this website Joyous, each video that I posted or they posted of me had 400 to 500,000 viewers, and they already knew it was a transactional relationship with me because I was selling product. I was talking
Right.
about product. So without Joyous, I would not have gotten a book deal. You need a substantial social media following, blog following, whatever. And then once you get the book deal, I mean, before you even get the book deal, writing a book proposal is really intense. And then getting people to listen to your pitch is really intense. Getting an agent, I got very lucky. I got a great agent, but if you don't have an agent, no one's going to listen to you at the big publishing houses. So it's, and then you're on this very accelerated publishing calendar because it all depends on the calendar news cycle. So I got my book deal in 2015, but I had to wait till 2017 to publish my book because 2016 was an election year, and nobody
Oh,
buys books in third quarter of an election year, evidently.
okay. I didn't know
I
that.
know. I mean, it's all so anyway, I signed my book deal and then it kind of languished for a while and we put together the bones of the book. But then once my publisher approved the sort of outline, I had 4 months to write it, and I did it from my couch at our house in Colorado and ignored my family. Fortunately, everyone was old enough that I could do that. And then they had a month to review and edit, and then I had, I think, 2 weeks to review their edits, and then we were done.
That's
And that
unbelievable.
it's
That's an
very
unbelievable time frame to write something and to create something like that. Did
yeah.
you ever consider yourself a writer? Was that,
I like to
something that you
write.
believed that you could do?
Yeah, I mean, I actually am in the process of launching a blog on my website. I'm sort of front loading all the content right now before it goes live so that,
I
I
love
don't
that.
be frenzied every week. I've written pieces. I wrote a piece for Elle magazine recently. And, I do like to write. Do I consider myself a writer? No, it's not my primary vocation. But
That's
I
I
do
mean, it's
enjoy it.
it's it's a daunting it's a daunting task, and I feel like, the fact that you're given a book deal, obviously people saw that you had something to say and that people were willing to hear that information, and you had proven that obviously already. But yeah, I just can't imagine being on that time frame of writing a whole book in 4 months. That's
Yeah.
just
I
amazing.
was I missed my entire summer vacation that year. My kids were
Yeah.
out of school. We were parked in Colorado, and I did nothing. I wrote,
Yeah.
but I
Amazing,
did not get
amazing.
sun damage that summer, I guess is the
There's always the silver
I guess
lining,
you
right?
just gotta look up for the silver lining.
So at that point, you said that you had already created your first line of makeup brushes. Was
I
that
did.
different than the line that you have now?
Yes, the line that I have now is my 3rd collection. The first
Okay.
collection was, animal hair, handmade in
Okay.
Japan, gorgeous quality brushes, but
Yeah.
animal hair just I wasn't comfortable with animal hair, and I had already gone fur-free in my own life. I'm not vegan or vegetarian, I do wear leather, but the idea of putting fur on my face just, like, gave me the ick. Um, the second line was our vegan collection, and I worked with a Korean manufacturer on these very high-tech filaments, and it was beautiful. But my line's about sustainability, and so our
Mhm.
current collection is made with recycled plastic bristles. Also
Okay.
very high-tech, very fine, and they're really soft and beautiful, but they are, we've closed part of the waste loop by using recycled plastic to make these brushes, and that's very
Amazing.
important.
Well,
Yeah,
the brushes that you have now are unbelievable. I mean, that's really truly how I feel. I have every single brush that you make, and I
thank
have 2 of the all over brush because I use it for separate things, and I never wanna wait to have to clean it and reuse it. But, anyway, they're amazing.
thank you.
And I feel like you would never know that what they're made of, or, I don't know the difference anyway, but I know the difference in the way that they feel and the brushes that I've used in the past. And, they're really amazing. So I just,
Thank you.
needed to say that. So, yeah. So I mean, writing a book, doing all of these things, and then deciding to actually become an entrepreneur and put out this whole line. I mean, being an entrepreneur is no joke. I know that, from past experience. So what kind of motivated you to decide to do that?
Honestly, everything in my collection is born of personal need. Certainly, the more successful products, because I can get behind them, I can market them, I use them myself, I can speak very authentically about them. We have some retailer requests. Some of our retailers have requested particular products, and those are never quite as successful
Mm,
because it's filling
interesting.
a niche for them, but it doesn't necessarily translate to being an industry wide white space. Um, so really it's about personal need. If I need, like, I'm not a powder person, but I like the idea of a powder puff just to kind of smooth and finish her makeup. And so, instead of doing like the poor quality Amazon ones that are out there, I sourced a different type of fabric and did it in a way that I like and that I can get behind and that I use on myself and on my clients. And same thing, I wanted a really great home dermaplaning tool. And so I had to source the type of blade for that. And, everything is really like what I want in my own kit and collection.
I love that. I love that. Can we talk about social media for a minute?
Sure.
I really want to talk about social media with you because I think you do an amazing job at it.
Thank you.
And I have to know, please tell me you have help because you do such an amazing job. Your content it's kind of the perfect mix of humor and truly useful content. You show a little bit of your personal side, and you really just are very authentic. And I feel like that must translate into having a large audience for you, I assume, because I really love your content and I really feel like it's such a dance to create a social media presence that has that authenticity and that doesn't feel like you're trying to sell to people all the time. I love that you take tips that other people are doing on TikTok and you're like, let's see if this really works in real life. There's just so many things that you do on social media that I think are really, really authentic and I've been really useful. So I want to talk about that a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My following is not huge. I mean, I think a little over 20,000 now, coming up on 21. But my audience is really engaged. And I get the same feedback that you're giving me, I get from a lot of people, which is so gratifying because I do it all myself.
Wow,
Um,
that's amazing.
Usually on a Sunday night, I will plan. I use Later. I mean, Later is the greatest social media planning app. I plug everything into Later and I can schedule 2 weeks of content in a relatively short amount of time. I have kind of a rhythm that I try to follow. Like you said, it's a mix of humor and topical subject matter or things that I'm going through in my life. Um, I try to add in definitely sales of my products, although those posts get the lowest engagement. Um, Sunday is always my palate cleanser day. Um, I post animals, babies, travel, cooking on Sundays. Sundays, I feel like everybody needs a reset. People are sitting on their couches, they're lying in bed, they don't want to be sold a bunch of stuff. So Sunday is sort of a reset day for me. Um, and then, I just try to like include all of these different categories, but I think the one that most people respond to are the real talk categories where it's me saying, this is a bullshit trend. Or if you have, I call it lived in skin. If you've got lived in skin, this is not going to work for you. Or, here are ways in which the beauty industry is really dumb, or whatever it is. It's just like real talk. Um, Obviously, it's only one person's opinion. Take it, however you want to. But I do feel that my name's on my brand. My face is all over my own social media. People deserve to hear my genuine opinions and not just be pitched a bunch of stuff to buy. I don't want my relationship on social media to be only transactional. It's a
Well, I love
community,
that, and I think
especially
people really respond to it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think people, really respond to that. I do, and like I said, I get so much out of it. Did it take you a while to kind of find your rhythm with social media? Because I feel like sometimes, um, people just throw up content just because they feel like, they'll go online and they'll say, I have to be posting 3 times a day or 3 times a week or whatever it is. And, you can tell when people are kind of just trying to follow a formula.
Well,
And
I'm glad you can't tell when I do that because I definitely do that.
okay, I can't tell when you do that. I
Okay, good.
definitely can't tell when you do that. And I feel like your content feels, and maybe it's not, maybe there is a formula to how many times a day you post or how many times a week you post. But the content, you're not throwing up content just to throw up content. And I feel there's a lot of people that just do that. And I feel like that's
Right. Love
why
it.
social media isn't successful for them.
It's also the relationship that you have with your audience is different on every platform. Instagram is a community. It is very interactive, and I mean, I try to respond to every DM that I get, even if it's just like a little double tap heart. I want people to feel acknowledged. I have had help in the past with social media, but I've been going it alone for a while now. Um, I don't like anybody else responding to questions except me. Um, and it can be a huge time suck. Um,
Mhm.
that's the Instagram part. TikTok, I have not gone all in on TikTok yet, although I do enjoy it. Um, I find it scarier. I've had a couple
I
of
agree.
videos go a little bit viral on TikTok, and it people feel very free to throw their opinions at you. It's not a dialogue the way it is on Instagram. And YouTube, I have a YouTube channel and there's videos posted on my YouTube channel, but I've never even opened it. I don't know. Somebody else did that one. They just sort of loaded my videos. I have to get to that. So, where I'm going with this is you have to cater to the platform that you're on. On Instagram, I think it is important to post consistently so that you don't lose your place in the algorithm, but there's no predictability. You never know what's going to hit. Sometimes I will put up a video and I'll think to myself, this is such good information. Like, I look cute, it's a good tip, whatever it is, and it just falls flat. And there's no way to know why that happens. All I know on Instagram is that if you like and comment on other people's posts, you are more likely to get higher ranking in the algorithm.
Okay.
And that's that interaction piece of it that's so important on Instagram.
Got it. Well, you definitely are very engaged with your audience. I know that I comment and have asked questions before, and you've always responded, which I think is great. But yeah, so thanks for talking about that a little bit. I think
Sure.
everybody who's got something to say, everybody that's got something to sell, everybody that's trying to promote their, their brand, whatever it might be, social media is such an important part of that, and it's nice to see when someone does it in a really authentic and useful way.
Me.
So I just wanted to kind of say that. The other thing that I want to talk about, which you've kind of touched on a little bit, is the authentic way that you speak about aging, which has become like a negative term in itself to say the word aging, but it happens and we're all there and we're all doing it. And you've been so authentic and so open about things that you've done and things that you've tried. And I know a couple of years ago you talked about getting a facelift and what kind of went into that, and you wrote a piece for magazine, I believe, on that.
I
So
did.
I'd love to talk about that a little bit because, again, I think that you are so authentic when talking about that, and it's very kind of courageous to go out there and be public with the information, and what your experience is. And I just love that. And so I would love to know like your motivation behind that and what you kind of thought and how you kind of came to those conclusions to do that.
So my motivation, much like with any product that I develop for my line, is if it's something important to me, it's got to be important to other people because nobody lives in a vacuum. And
Sure.
so, sharing the conversation about all of the procedures that I've tried and, how traumatic the recovery was from my facelift and, hot flashes, any other conversation is really just to um, be relatable, have relatable content because, again, I'm not the only one going through this stuff, just no one's talking about it. And so for me, it's just normalizing the conversation. The term anti-aging or age rewind or age
Mhm.
defend or, any other like stupid name like that. Aging isn't a disease that needs to be cured. And that's the way we've been talking about it. But I think maybe I was like at the beginning of this anti-aging movement because it seems to be catching up now. And there seems to be a lot more age acceptance now than there was when I started talking about this, 5, 6 years ago when I was really in the thick of menopause. Um, Pam Anderson going to Fashion Week wearing 0 makeup.
Amazing, right?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And, it's polarizing and it's being called an act of courage and rebellion, and it is, but I don't get why it should be.
Mhm.
Like, people talk about how brave it was to talk about my facelift, but I don't get why I'm not ashamed that I did it. I don't get why it's this big deal to talk about it. I never wanted to be the person who creates this unrealistic expectation for people who aren't getting facelifts. Like, if you think my skin looks good, great. There are things that you can do too. It's not like I'm this magical creature who, all of a sudden the lotion that I'm using has given me the effect of a facelift. I actually have a video about this queued up that's posting in a couple of weeks. Um, I just feel like celebrities in particular, who don't discuss their procedures, and obviously nobody is obligated to discuss their private medical history, but it does such a disservice to, us mere mortals because we're comparing ourselves to these people who we see on the big screen and who we see, with professional makeup applied and, who've had every procedure that is not necessarily within the general public's reach
Mhm.
financially or just on an access basis. And it just, you know, there's a missing part of the conversation about the reality of what goes into maintaining a youthful appearance.
Well, I
So
think
that,
it's
to me, it's like I just get annoyed because there are so many people who can't do what a celebrity is doing. And, I just feel like if somebody is doing what a celebrity is doing, it's great to talk about it because it makes it much more relatable.
absolutely, and I think it's such a complicated issue. Or topic, and I think when people say that it was courageous or brave in these instances, I think it's because you know that you're going to get feedback. People are going to have an opinion. And
I
I feel
love
like that's the thing is that those people feel so free to express their opinions on other women and on other people these days. And that's the part that is scary. That's the part that I feel like is hard when you want to be open and you want to tell people and be authentic about what it is that you're doing. And even like, what Pamela Anderson is doing, going to Fashion Week with no makeup on. It's like, how brave is that? Because you know that the feedback that she's going to get is not all great. And I'm wondering, did you have any of that? Did you have any negativity when you decided to talk about your facelift?
Oh, I for sure did, yeah, and I lost thousands of followers, maybe 1,000.
Really?
I did, I did, and I
Wow.
think it's because I'm in this clean beauty part of the beauty industry, which is I mean, that's a whole other topic we can get into if you want to, Donna, but, like, that people equate clean beauty with natural beauty, and natural beauty means something different to everybody, but for those people who unfollowed me, it didn't mean surgical intervention. So I lost a lot of followers. I would say 90% of the feedback that I got, the comments, the messages, were positive. It was a lot of, like, "Good for you for going public with it," or "Thank you for going public with it."
Mhm.
And then it was maybe 5 to 10%, "You still look terrible." "How can you say this is natural beauty?" And, I understand that perspective. Um, there weren't that many people who were outright mean, but there were some. And it's
That's
very
just
unfortunate.
unbelievable.
And it is like I knew when I was thinking about having a lift and when I had the lift, I knew that I was gonna go public with it. I knew there was no way I was gonna feel comfortable, um, not talking about it and all of a sudden showing up one day with, a tighter jawline. Um, and I knew that there was gonna be a risk of negative feedback. And
It's
that's okay.
like I said, it's unbelievable that people feel okay to express, that sort of opinion to
I
other
mean,
women.
it's
It's just crazy.
It's social media, and also when with women, and particularly with women who are getting a little bit older, you really can't win. If Pam Anderson had gone to Fashion Week wearing the same type of makeup that she's known for, she would have been called ridiculous or, slutty or overdone or whatever. And, here she's now being called, haggard or whatever other horrible things people are calling her. And there's really no winning for aging women. It's the same thing for moms. It's the same thing for, young women who don't want to have a serious relationship. They only want casual relationships. You can't win. You're why try to win? I guess is kind of my take, and it's liberating just to tell your own story and live your truth. And I do
It,
try to do that on social media.
I think you do. I think you do a great job of that. And I think you're right. There is no winning, but like how do we win? I think the only way that we win is to be authentic to ourselves. And if that means having something done or not having something done, and I think the only way to really be authentic is to, listen to your own heart and your own and what you need to make yourself feel happy. And I think it's so hard when I see, women attacking other women on social media, whether it's, just somebody like us or a celebrity. It's like it's just frustrating. It's frustrating in so many senses of the word
It,
because we shouldn't have
it
to
is.
explain ourselves to anyone.
The thing is, though, I don't necessarily subscribe to the whole there's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women approach.
Okay.
There are some genuinely horrible women who I don't support, whose, values do not align with mine, but I'm not attacking them on social media, but
Right.
again, it goes back to something I was saying earlier. We as women are taught to swallow our anger. So, it creates this sort of swirling vortex of emotions and reactions that we have. And unfortunately, those come out in a really prevalent way from the safety of your keyboard. And people just feel like they can let loose because it's not a face to face interaction. And if they're angry about something in their life, it can get turned around on whoever they're attacking, rightly or wrongly. Um, I also think so I'm going off on a diatribe here, Donna, sorry. I
No,
also think
please.
that, like, the really strong summer that we had with, like, female empowerment between Taylor Swift and Barbie and, Beyoncé, that's all fabulous. And I love this, like, women supporting other women and women, living their truth and stepping into their power. It's amazing, all of it. But I'm so bummed out by the Lizzo story because she positioned herself as this, like, advocate for women and this strong supporter of all shapes, all sizes, all people, all genders. And to have this very public accusation made against her really impacts the way women look at each other. It creates, in my mind, sort of a layer of suspicion. And we are this celebrity culture that we all worship at the altar of Taylor Swift. Like, one thing could come out in the news about behavior that she's had or something that she said, and all of a sudden it's going to all be turned on its head. So I'm not really sure what the answer is for how we can all win, but I think it starts with being completely authentic at all times on a grassroots basis and not buying into all of the glitz and glam and gloss of celebrity culture. That was such a
That's such an
long
important.
way of saying it, but
No, I actually love that you brought that up because I think that obviously a lot of the problem stems from that, from people celebrating and worshiping at the altar of these celebrities. And the bottom line is we only know what we're fed, what we're given. And we're given those things through the lens of the media, through the lens of publicists and managers and and things. There's a
filter.
whole machine behind the Taylor Swifts and the Lizzos and the Beyoncés, a whole machine of people either feeding information or stopping information from coming out. And, hey, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a huge fan of somebody and really appreciating their talent and, maybe even appreciating what you think their values are and what they're, putting out on social media and all of that. But I think it's really important. And I think that at our age, we understand that maybe, hopefully, everybody at our age understands that. But I think when it comes to younger people, sometimes they don't understand that and they don't really realize the machine that is behind it and that is, grinding and putting out an image that they spent a ton of time perfecting and creating and perfecting before it gets to us. And what if we really thought about it in that way, I don't think we would have the expectations that we have of celebrities at this point.
Celebrity culture has also become really granular these days because you can be an influencer with 5,000 followers and, you're projecting this like very perfect filtered image that young women are looking at and not understanding why they don't look the same.
Mhm.
And so, it's not just the big stars. It's, the any social media influencer. It doesn't even have to be somebody with an enormous following. But to your point, it's a very cultivated image. It's a very cultivated message. And you are only being seen what they show you. I am starting to see some cracks in that. I am starting to see a lot more women showing the reality. There are some makeup artists who I follow who I think just do a great job with talking about, their mental health struggles or their acne or weight gain or whatever it is. I am starting to see, um, a little bit more reality in the reality, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. And I think, again, we can't do anything right because there are those people that will say, well, I look to celebrities to, show me the glamour and the beauty and all of those things that maybe I don't have in my normal life. So, there is the other side of that coin, saying when celebrities are being authentic and are being honest and showing kind of their flaws, there's that whole other subsect of people that are saying, I don't want that, like the Victoria's Secret uh, show and how, what happened with Victoria's Secret. I've seen TikToks that are really kind of well thought out, speaking about both sides of that. I mean, I think that, yes, being inclusive and having diversity and all of that is so important in our culture. It's something that we all should take responsibility for doing. But then there are these people that are like, well, that was fantasy. Like, so like the Victoria's Secret show was supposed to be about fantasy. And so there are people saying, I want to, that's what I was kind of hoping to see. And,
I
now it's
know,
it's changed into something different.
but, perpetuating the cultural standards of tall, skinny, big boobs, big hair, big lips,
Right.
it's not the world that we live in, and I
Right.
think that there is room for glamour to be much more inclusive than it is, and again, I do see it shifting that way, um, but it's a really big hurdle to get over, this cultural standard of beauty, that's been really, really deeply ingrained in us, and that, I mean, really was created by men. Um, and I am not I hate all men person. But I mean, I think we need to acknowledge that all of the ad campaigns that have fed our culture for the last 60, 70 years were created by white men.
Sure.
And so, the beauty standards that the past several generations have been living with came from that. And so that's the idea of glamour. That's still the fantasy. And I mean, I still buy into it. I would love to get some lip filler. I have post traumatic surgery disorder. I'm not doing anything to my face again, maybe ever. But, I look at people and I think, gosh, that looks really pretty. But it's an artificial standard that I know intellectually was not created by women for women.
Hmm.
And it's not about self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is not sexy. It doesn't really sell all that much.
True. And it
Unfor
is you're definitely 100% right, when it comes to that, but then, I love makeup, and I love getting dressed up, and I love
Yeah.
feeling glamorous and sexy and all of those things, and I feel good about myself when I feel like I'm taking care of myself in that way and I'm putting myself together, so there's nothing wrong with it is your point,
Oh,
but
no, there's nothing
right.
whatever you want to do, there's nothing wrong with it. You get to make your own decisions about how you want to present yourself, but my point is that there's a really strong headwind that we're walking into with these deeply, deeply ingrained cultural standards of women's appearances and how women are supposed to behave. And obviously, we've made enormous strides. I mean, enormous.
Absolutely.
Um, but I don't feel like women are treated as equals across the board. I don't feel like the standards of how we put ourselves together are equal. I don't feel like the conversations in the workplace or the opportunities in the workplace are equal. Um, we're walking there, but it's all challenging. And coming back to the point we were talking about before, really the only way to make meaningful change is to go into any situation 100% or as close to 100% authentic as you can be, because authenticity is the only thing that's going to break down the artificial structures that have been built up by these men.
That's such an important, quote and things to think about. I think especially for anybody that's listening that is younger, uh, being your authentic self is always the way to go. It's never something that you're gonna look back on and regret. And I hope that that kind of comes across. And you have 3 daughters,
I was
correct?
just about to say, I've got 3 Gen Z daughters, and there is so much more self-acceptance and body positivity and open-mindedness in this population of kids. I'm very hopeful about what Gen Z can do for us as an American society. I think they're a really amazing generation. But yeah, my kids are totally accepting of, when I got my lift, they were all like, "You do what makes you feel good, mom. If that's what makes you feel good, then we support you." I had one of my kids totally made fun of me afterwards, but generally they were really supportive and lovely. And I
That's
think
great.
generationally, it's changing a little.
It is changing. My daughter is 27, and, I definitely see I feel like there's a confidence maybe at a younger age than what I may have had, in my early 20s. I don't know
I
if
think so.
confidence is the right word. Do you think that's it?
I think so. I mean, I feel like my kids are more present than I was at their age. Um, and I feel like they know themselves a little bit better than I did when I was in my early 20s. Um, but more than that, they're all really open. They're open-minded in a different way than previous generations have been. Um,
Definitely open-minded, and I think self-aware. I don't
abs-
know that I was self-aware, had an ounce of that when, I was in my 20s, and I think, um, kind of seeing, my daughter and other women her age, they feel a little bit more self-aware.
I think it's the first generation where there's been really open conversation about mental health and where it's sort of been a mainstream kind of topic of conversation. And that can only have a good impact on, your self-awareness because you're recognizing what you're feeling in real time or you're recognizing what you're struggling with in real time. Whereas, I mean, for us as Gen X, like we just stuffed that all down. Like that was like you didn't talk about it as much. And I have British parents. We did not talk about
Absolutely, and they're prioritizing. their health in in
They are.
in all ways, in all ways. Their mental health, their physical health. I see that, so that's probably the biggest change that I see in the generation is they know at a younger age how to prioritize that for themselves, how to
I think that's
prioritize their mental health, how to take care of themselves. They know that health is something that's important, which were lessons that I feel like I learned, a little bit later in life. So
I
I think that's
agree.
a real positive in
Yeah, I
for
think
that
so too.
generation.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
absolutely.
impressive, and, we're kind of going off on a different track here, but I also think that they're, um, a real, activist generation,
Mhm.
and they're standing up for their beliefs, and there have been lots of other boomers were huge activists, um, but I think that there hasn't been that activist generation in the same way since the boomers, um, I find it exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that too. I'm such a fan of your products and I'm such a fan of yours, and I could really talk to you all day, but I know I don't want to keep you. I know how busy you are. I just want to thank you for being a part of this conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that I have so much more that I want to talk to you about. So maybe we can do this again. I hope that you'll come back someday.
Thank you so much. It was great.